or connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is shaping the world from the inside out. And we're going to get to explore how really important it is to elevate our internal experience in order to create the future that we desire for ourselves and the world. So before we get started, let's just take a minute to settle in and get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine sparkling, clean oxygen just coursing into your lungs, into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, enlivening and brightening your being. And as you exhale any tension, any stress, and allow yourself to sink into the comfort of being here right now. Let's take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it and imagine sparkling white light coursing into all the molecules of your being and throughout your body and beyond, connecting you with the universe. And now just exhale any remaining stress, any remaining tension. Allow yourselves to just sort of roll your shoulders, get into being here comfortably in your body right now. And now let's just gently press our palms together and really softly just tickle your palms with your fingers. Feel the tickling and the tingling. Feel the sensation in your fingertips and in your palms. And just allow yourself to delight in the sensual experience of that. And let's just be here right now. Welcome. Hi, Dido. Welcome. It's a new week. I'm so glad to have you here, and welcome to everybody who's joining us. It is Monday, and we're going to be talking about shaping the world from the inside out and how truly important and critical it is to be monitoring our internal state in order to create the impact that we desire for a new future. So what does it mean? What does it mean to shape the world from the inside out? Well, what we want to look at is the lens through which we see the world is a result of our internal state, of our beliefs, but our feelings, our emotions. So for instance, if I'm feeling fearful or I'm feeling anxious, the things that I am going to do and speak into the world are going to be different than if I'm coming from a place of love. If I'm feeling constriction rather than possibility, then the way that I show up in the world is going to be radically different. So if I'm showing up from constriction, I'm likely to be looking at lack or fear or impediments or obstacles. If I'm coming from a place of trust and love and confidence, I'm likely to be bringing experiences into the world that are characterized by possibility and opportunity and creativity. So let's look at how have we created circumstances for ourselves based on our emotions. I know that so many of us are challenged, deeply challenged by the events of these times, of COVID, of social awakening, of political strife, and obstruction and conflict. And in this moment, with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that, as an example, hit me very hard. I started off on a very dark path in response to her passing, being the icon that she is, seeing the shifts in our political environment. I don't really choose to talk about politics and take sides, but that said, this just feels like such a fractious time, and a frightening time, frankly, for me anyway. And so managing that response, managing my reaction, is a critical piece in shaping how I show up in the world and the impact that I have, because we all have an impact in the world. So I mentioned previously that I'm taking this wonderful course called Leading from the Emerging Future. And it's through edX and an organization called the Presencing Institute. And the notion of leading from the emerging future is refocusing our attention from past events that as a source for determining a path forward, to sensing into the needs of the emerging future. And how we do that is first to become present internally. And I think that this is such a fascinating and important dynamic to be looking at, because just try going in a direction while you're looking behind you. You're going to trip and fall over all kinds of things that you're not seeing ahead of you, right? Because you're focused on the past. You're focused on the way that things have been, and therefore are not able to respond to what is new and emergent. Thank you. Dido posted the link to this course on the chat. Thank you so much for that. I'm not even that deep into it, but I'm finding it very, very stimulating and inspiring so far, and I'm really excited about what's going to come forth. I'm sure I'm going to be speaking more about it coming forward, because we are at a crossroads, probably a greater crossroads than humanity has ever faced, with so many issues that need urgent attention, or that call for urgent attention. And we are called and challenged to rise to the needs or the requirements of this moment, these unique requirements. So in sensing inside and sensing into ourselves, I was talking about feeling the fear with regard to where we're headed in this country and culturally. And so in looking into myself for the source of that fear, what I noticed was that I was very enmeshed in old conversation and an old paradigm. And the old paradigm that is pervasive for us as a society and maybe as a civilization, a global civilization on this planet, is the paradigm of separation. And I know I've spoken about this before as well, but when we see ourselves as separate from one another, when we see self and other, we create a natural opposition. And what we do is we look at differences, we look at what separates us, and we perceive a threat in that difference, and competition and opposition. And what we get to do is start instead to be connecting with ourselves as part of a greater whole, as part of a larger system, as part of nature. It was really interesting. There's a summit. Let me see if I can find the name of the summit that is currently available and free that you might want to check out. And it's really powerful and beautiful. and it is called A Magnificent New Normal. So you might want to check out that summit. It's a 40-day summit. I think it started on September 16th, and every day there are new talks that are made available. And it's people from all different arenas talking about the magnificent emerging future. And I think, well, this is what I've been talking about all along, is that because we're in a time of disruption, we get to create new possibility. And the source of that possibility is our own well-being, our own sense of presence and responsiveness. And how do we become responsive is we find a place of peace within ourselves. So as I was addressing this sense of anxiety and fear, what I noticed was that I was separate from peace, from my internal sense of presence, from connecting with and trusting the universe. Dido, you are a wonder. Thank you so much. She has posted a link to the summit called The Magnificent New Normal. I encourage you to check it out and check out the speakers, especially if you're looking for places of hopefulness and possibility in moving forward into this unknown that we get to collectively create. And the more conscious we are, the more present we are, the more we get to be deliberate in our manifestation and creation of this magnificent new possibility. So back to the fear or anxiety that I was feeling, and the heaviness of what I was interpreting as a loss of hope. I was just feeling somewhat hopeless. And to bring yourself back from that space of despair or hopelessness or resignation or fear or anxiety, it takes some conscious and deliberate effort to look at what is the conversation that we're having internally that's generating those feelings. And when we recognize the priority of maintaining our inner balance and welfare for all things, because it is from that space that we shape a new reality, that we show up in the world, that we take action, our actions are going to be very different if we're coming from a space of connection and compassion than if we're coming from a place of fear and despair. And so it is beholden to us, above all else, to get our own oxygen masks, to maintain a state and cultivate a state of presence and balance and connection. And one of the biggest ways that we get to do that is by looking at the conversations that we're having internally that are supporting and helping to generate these feelings that are less than desirable and less than productive. So I can still see the world, I can still see the circumstances and come from a place of peace and presence. And I have a much greater impact from that space than if I am reacting to circumstance from a contractive vantage point. So what did I do? I looked at, when I was feeling these feelings, I looked at what my thought pattern was. I looked at the conversation and then started generating positive questions. Positive questions like, what can I do? Positive questions like, what are the possibilities here? Positive questions like, how can I elevate my state in this moment? Because when we are incapacitated, we are incapable of responding in an appropriate way. We're incapable of taking appropriate action. And what we want to do is maintain our sense of responsiveness. Now, you may not have the same experience or political leanings or opinions that I do. However, maintaining your state, whoever you are, of responsiveness and centeredness is going to be critical to our ability to create the world we desire. So I'm wondering if you have any challenges to share in this arena, if you are are facing concerns. I mean, there are things there. We're all facing concerns. We're all facing many new uncharted territories in this time and space of massive global transition. I think sensing into the emerging future, we don't want to be in denial either. We don't want to be in denial of what exists, because then that's not allowing us to be appropriately responsive either. So we're called to elevate our internal state, be aware of what is happening, do our best to find a place of observation, neutral observation, so that we can then find appropriate response to our circumstances and to the emerging circumstances in the world. What I'm talking about is finding a way to get beyond our bias. And that may seem impossible, and perhaps it is. I mean, there's always going to be some dimension of bias that we have toward everything we hear. What we get to do when we experience that bias is to open ourselves to a new opportunity, to take a deep breath, to find that place of contraction or constriction that we might be experiencing. Breathe into that moment, into that place in our bodies, and open ourselves to a question or an awareness that, oh, wow, I'm getting really reactive here. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to see something new, for me to learn something new. And as we embrace those opportunities, then we have the greater freedom and capacity to interact with the circumstances as they exist and as they're emerging. Arena, it is so wonderful to have you here. What a blessing. Thank you for being here. So Arena says, I'm facing disruption on many levels and in many situations these days. And yes, I feel that my anchor is in my connection to source. Self-care is crucial. Irritation is often showing the way these days, showing me where my needs are not met. And I also keep asking, what is the opportunity here? Thank you for mentioning this as well. Well, Arena, it's interesting, and I thank you so much for your candor and your vulnerability here, and noting that irritation is often showing the way. So what is irritation a signal of? Irritation is a signal that there's some kind of thinking going on behind the scenes that is shaping our experience, that we are either actively engaged in or that we may even be completely unaware of. So how do we bring our awareness to the dynamic that is creating this irritation? The irritation is when things are out of alignment. Either we ourselves are out of alignment with ourselves on some level, or and actually maybe it's always that. Maybe it's always that we are in some way out of alignment with ourselves, or our response or our awareness. because the world is a reflection of ourselves. So when we find this irritation, it's a signal to be shifting our self-talk, to be asking empowering questions, to be tuning into what is going on under the surface so that we can evolve into what the call is drawing us forward to. We are always on a path of emergence. And as we align ourselves with that emergence without the resistance, it's the resistance that causes irritation, lack of alignment, resisting the flow of what is. And as we get to discover more deeply what that resistance is, where it resides in us, where we're experiencing it in our bodies, where we're dialoguing with it in our mind, when we release that resistance, we have a greater capacity to perceive things in a more neutral way. When we are able to perceive things in a neutral way, what I mean by that is without our prejudgment, then we have a greater access to responsiveness, to pure guided responsiveness. In other words, we get to connect more deeply with the inner knowing that is there, the deep inner knowing, the deep inner wisdom that has the capacity to guide us through the most difficult of times. So if we take the irritation, as you have, Irina, as an opportunity to awaken even further and to discover the requirements or the necessities that we have in order to recognize the things that need that are calling to be met, then we have a richer experience available to us going forward, and then we have a greater capacity to bring into the world the things that we desire. It all comes down to the fact that the focus that we have, whatever we're focusing on, multiplies. So the more we focus on the negativity without the intention and clarity about transmuting that, then the deeper we go into a downward spiral. And interestingly, in this summit that I mentioned to you earlier, the Magnificent New Normal is the name of the summit. I was listening to a lecture by the Perlmutters, and they were talking about brain chemistry and inflammation and decision-making, and how the state of our body influences the state of our being, and how inflammation in our bodies can generate depression. So interestingly, they were talking about sleep and they were talking about diet. And I didn't even get to listen to the whole thing yet, but sleep enables our bodies to function in a better way that helps to shift our brain chemistry, and our diet also shifts our brain chemistry. So if we're consuming lots of fast foods and sugars and things that are highly processed and chemical infused, we are shifting our physiology in such a way that we're limiting our capacity to respond in an optimal way to life. And we are also impacting our emotional state, such as depression, such as anxiety, such as fear. All of those things, believe it or not, are impacted by our diet. Why? Because our diet shifts our chemistry, and our chemistry and physiology shifts our experience, our emotional experience, our mental experience, and our thoughts and ideas. And as they were talking about in this lecture, our impulsivity. And as we are sleep deprived and chemicalized and out of balance physiologically, we're more inclined to make impulsive decisions and have rash behaviors. So we're called now on so many levels to up our game and to take better care of ourselves in order to be able to call forward the world that we envision as possible. And so I thank you so much for sharing this time with me, hopefully sharing the desire and capability to shape this new world, to call forth the world we desire, to really look at, do we want to perpetuate the paradigms of the past that have gotten us to this place, or from a place of presence, from the inside out, can we be accountable for ourselves in a loving and compassionate and nurturing way that empowers us to bring forward the future that we dream of. So I just want to say thank you again for being here and playing with me. And I have so much love and compassion for you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live weekday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. And you definitely want to give yourself a gift and check out the other programming on Enlightened World Network. A soul felt, deeply loving, growing and expanding community. And I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.